So let's take another question here, and we can discuss this topic further if anybody wants to. A question from Horatio says, most vocal warm-ups on YouTube are based on the same major scale. What other scales would you recommend besides the blues scale to help increase your improvisational skills for riffs and runs?
Right. What I'll do is I will also share one of the etudes that we've created, because we've created there's going to be about 20-25 etudes. So etudes just basically studies, and they deal with particular things. And we got one that's a rock blues one, which has a massive riff in it that we have so if you sign up on our website at singingtheory.com, we can send you that, and it's basically, baby, everybody knows that I love you, and it goes on. Love you, yeah, 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 that kind of thing. And you can sing it in loads of different ways, but it particularly trains that. But out of the existing scales, so that was a shameless plug. I love the harmonic minor, because again, with that lifted seventh, you end up with that kind of slightly, I don't know, Arabian feel or something that just has a little bit of interest more than the major scale. But it's true. You know what I also do, and with all my advanced singers, I do exercises going between the minor and major. So I'd go, and then they have to listen. If they're doing the major or the minor, because and it could even be. Sorry, that's my alarm. So you go. And I do sit like that on Zoom lessons because can't really instruct while they're doing. But that kind of thing can really help. But the harmonic minor, you go. Basically, if your theory is basic, I'm just going to say that I know that kind of question sounds like it's not. But for those of you who are more basic in theory, if you start on an A on the piano and just go up, and then instead of going to the G, you go to the G sharp. And when I make a mistake, it's so that you feel comfortable making mistakes, and then go back the same way. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I might go, oh, I added a trill, I'm so tarty. Oh, and I might go, over a kind of chord progression. It works really well in folk and kind of more singer-songwritery, that harmonic minor, and it is kind of interesting. So those are the two I use the most, but there's so many great modes, and I just don't do that the most.
Yeah, but it's great. It's, think of it as layering, right? Start with one, add one scale that you don't sing a lot to your repertoire, and play with that for like 3 weeks, and then add another, and then you're going to be developing as you go. And what was your key word back there, myelin?
Myelin, exactly.
Right. So let's talk about that, because a lot of these processes we've been talking about have a lot to do about it. And I use the word muscle memory all the time, but that's how you create this muscle memory. There's other words for it too, like automatic action. That 80% of what we do on a daily basis is habit. It's habit. So I like to say the way you sing today is your singing habit. And if you want to improve your singing, you got to create a better singing habit. So all of these things are just step by step by step by step. Did you want? Yeah, you had another comment. We have a really good conversation going on in the chat, and I want us to
Yeah.
pipe in on that.
Okay, yeah, a comment on that. And actually, direction of your scales is also really super important. So, like, if you have a tendency to pull up, flip the scale and start on top. whether it's the minor or the major arpeggio. So, because that'll help you make sure that you're not, I call the Anfield onset for those who are know what football is in England. So you got, you for instance, and then also for riffs, swapping the direction, so going from root fifth third, octave fifth third, root fifth third, octave fifth third, root, can be great for stabilizing the larynx. And when I say stabilizing the larynx, it's not so we have it just in one position, but to make sure that it doesn't just go up and down by pitching. It goes up and down if you want that sound, basically. So it's a stylistic choice, not. So we learn the rules like a pro, so we can break them like artists.
Lovely phrase. I love that. And that's great. That ties right into this little discussion. I'll just pop it in the chat so you can follow a little bit. But a question about the larynx height and position. And what you guys are typing in the chat, that's exactly what I'm saying. So if you lock your larynx up in one position, you're going to have less options. So if you want a higher larynx, it is possible to go down, sing the bottom of your range with a slightly higher larynx position, right? Or you can say just a higher larynx position than the max low. But if you have it locked somewhere, it limits what you're saying. So that's exactly what I mean. What you're asking and commenting on is if the larynx, if you allow it the flexibility it needs, then you can use a higher larynx position in the low and a lower larynx position in the high. And that's absolutely possible. It's just knowing, let it move. I don't know if you followed that. Also, just another, I'll pop that in there in our chat so you can address that from our from Erickson.
Yeah.
So if I understand,
Yeah. So the biggest space you make, think about a big dog and a small dog. Woof, woof. A smaller instrument will boost higher frequencies. A bigger instrument will boost lower frequencies. But it's not just your larynx. You can, there's so many movable parts in here. We got the larynx, we got the pharynx, which is the space just above. You have the soft palate, you have the tongue, you have the jaw, you have the lips. We've got obviously other things happening, but they're the ones we have the most control over. And I can do a lot of things without actually doing anything with my jaw and lips. I could just kind of say "p" and "b" and "m," but I can kind of do a lot of things just using the tongue further back. I can kind of make a lot of sounds, right? And I can change a larynx position like that as well. But I get to a point where I can't do anything because I have to get into this acoustic space, right? That's from a new musical called Acoustic Space.
yes, I love that. Thank you. That was really great. And guys, thanks for the comments and questions. It just stimulates the conversation, and so many singers and teachers are asking themselves the same questions as well. So the more questions you ask, and the it's going to lead you to the knowledge you're after. And this just gives me an opportunity to once again mention my course and the philosophy on the 4 activities of singing. I incorporate all these little elements we're talking about into what I call sound design, designing your vocal sound. And as Kaya mentioned, there are a lot of moving parts and spaces that we can manipulate to color the sound the way we want it. And the truth is, any sound you hear, a great singer, the great singer you're singing, you love to hear them sing, they're using a very specific setup, and they're using their sound design. That's their vocal identity, right? And of course, our voices are just as unique as your thumbprint. We have elements that are completely unique to us individually. So we're never going to be able to copy perfectly every tiny minute frequency in there. That's just not possible. You can't have my thumbprint, I can't have yours unless I give you my thumb, right? But we are still 99.999 how many percent identical, right? So we can set up the exact same sound design and use that efficiently, and we'll sound very much like who we want to sound like, but we'll still have our own authenticity, our own vocal identity, and that is so important.